Mula Bandha is something that you are expected to do, to engage in every posture. In pranayama also you are asked to include Mula Bandha, except little difference in pranayama. The emphasis that you have while you are in asana practice, that you must not engage Mula Bandha in such a way that it interferes with your breathing. That particular rule becomes much more important in pranayama. For doing Mula Bandha, the other confusion that arises because of what various books or people say is you will find some books saying that you must do Ashwini Mudra. In fact, I know a couple of books that actually call Ashwini Mudra as Mula Bandha, which is kind of book that I would burn or throw away. Burning is pollution, creates pollution. Just throw it away. Or use it as toilet paper. People who don't know anything about this should not be writing a book. Ashwini Mudra is an attempt to lift the sphincter, anal sphincter, up. That also is very often described in a wrong way, in that too many books say you squeeze the sphincter. That is not what you do. You attempt to lift the inner walls of the sphincter, which makes the sphincter smaller, yes. But don't put the cart before the horse. In other words, don't squeeze the sphincter to engage Ashwini Mudra. Lift the inner walls, automatically certain amount of what we call squeezing would happen. Also, I do know one particular kind of people that I have great love for, that use your facial muscles to engage Ashwini Mudra. And I call them politicians. Perhaps because the anus is in the wrong place anyway. That's joke number 14. In future, I'll just say 14, I won't state all this. But by which I mean that a certain state of joy should be there in doing something like Ashwini Mudra Pranayama. For that matter, any yoga. Don't make the practice kind of like a punishing yourself. Sometimes what you are required to do may require certain strong effort, but even that effort should come from a sense of happiness. The only thing contrary to that I would say is there are occasions when I get up in the morning. I generally practice in the morning. And because of what has happened, because Andrea has fed me wrong kind of food or something like that, I don't feel like practicing in the morning. But my experience tells me that even when that happens, if I kind of force myself to get up and practice, at the end of the practice, I do feel better. So it depends on why I don't feel like practicing. Did I have not enough sleep? Then I would say, yes, go ahead and force myself to get up and practice. Did I eat the wrong kind of food or too much food? Then also I would say, yes, get up and practice. Maybe change the kind of practice. But if I don't feel like practicing because, just to give an example, let's say my mother died, then I would not force myself to practice. Or if I do practice, it will be very, very different kind of practice. To allow whatever sense of congestion that's happened around my heart, my belly, to relax. Again, what I'm trying to emphasize there is, whatever I ask you to do, in general, do it with happiness. But when doing things like Ashwini Mudra, Mula Bandha, which are blocks, see that you do it joyfully. Joyfully, particularly being interpreted here as, see that action of Mula Bandha or Ashwini Mudra does not interfere with your normal breath. Certainly does not interfere with any facial muscles. Eyes, ears, tongue, sense organs particularly kept passive. So even as I'm talking while you are seated in this pose, you can change the pose if you need to. Begin to engage Ashwini Mudra. When I engage it in the beginning, I will certainly find that when I try to engage it, it interferes with my breath. Then I let go of that action and again try it, again let go. Repeatedly do it several times until the mind and the body learn how to engage the Ashwini Mudra without in any way interfering with normal breath. Largely that happens for most people, interference happens, because in an attempt to engage the Ashwini Mudra, you are perhaps tightening your stomach. Try to separate pelvic abdominal organs from each other. What happens in the abdominal area has to be separated from what happens in the pelvis. To engage Ashwini Mudra, when I attempt to lift the inner walls of the sphincter up, I don't take that action all the way to my abdominal area. To learn to separate these two may take a little time, but it is essential to learn. Because if I grip any part of my abdominal organs, and particularly the stomach, then my breath is interfered. You are asked to engage Ashwini Mudra very strongly indeed. Also, that action is within the opening to the sphincter. It is not taken outside in the body. So if you find yourself gripping psoas or other pelvic area, then you should learn to let go of that also. It's a very local, small action. Whereas Mula Bandha is not. Mula Bandha, that again, some bad books make it confused with Ashwini Mudra and hence make it narrow. Mula Bandha should be applied to as wide a width of the pelvis as you possibly can. Make Ashwini Mudra very narrow. Make Mula Bandha, the wider you can make, the better. Mula Bandha does begin by giving attention to a very small area, which is the perineum. Just to redefine my sense of what I would call perineum, in a female body, between the anus and the vaginal opening, the distance is very small. The center of that distance is the perineum. In a male body, distance between the scrotum and the anal sphincter is little longer. The center of that length is still the perineum. So I'm calling perineum as a very single point in the human body. The action begins there, but it doesn't stay narrow. It becomes wider and wider and wider. Okay, I hope that is clear enough. Both in Ashwini Mudra and Mula Bandha, you do not want the breath to be interfered with. And you are going to find that every time you try to learn this, at least in the beginning, by beginning I mean for most people between 3 to 4, 5 years ago, in the beginning you will engage it in such a way that it interferes with your breath. It's a long process before the body, the mind learn how to not interfere with the breath when engaging this Ashwini Mudra or Mula Bandha. I think partly that happens is because you're trying to do it very strongly. And in many classes, you are encouraged to do it strong. But strongly should not be confused with violating the basic rule of not interfering with the. The only other rule I can think of is if there is already certain pain in your pelvic or abdominal area, that pain should not increase by doing Ashwini Mudra or Mula Bandha. If it increases, even though you are actually generally correct, you are not ready for it. Your body somehow is not ready for it because of whatever has happened in past or the kind of body you have inherited. But I would not consider these kind of rules to be disheartening in any way. All the rules are saying is, first know where you are at without disturbing what is already fine. Learn to do Ashwini Mudra and Mula Bandha. Is Ashwini Mudra always necessary to engage Mula Bandha? Correct answer is no, it's not necessary. But most beginners need it. Ashwini Mudra will help to create correct Mula Bandha. Hence, many books again will say you should do Mula Bandha and include Ashwini Mudra in it. I would not call it wrong. That doesn't apply to somebody who has learned it over 15, 20 years. They need to separate it. Don't need to engage Ashwini Mudra to do Mula Bandha. So in a wide variety of class where people are at different stages, I have stated a long kind of background. You have to decide. I can't decide for you. You decide what particular method suits you.